Hi, everybody. This is Maria Lupita, New Mexico psychic medium. I do not know when the last time was that I was able to put a video together. I feel like I'm bursting at the seams. So, thank you so much for being here and thank you for your patience. And if you're new, welcome. I have so much to say and so much to share that I just cannot wait. So, I'm finally getting the equipment that I need so that I can put some higher quality videos together. If you've listened in the past, I thank you. And there's still more to come, so I hope that it'll just keep getting better and better. So let's just jump right in. Today, I want to talk about something that is super important that if you choose to apply, can change your life, can entirely take you out of where you are right now because it builds just like interest. So let me explain it. First, first let me say that truth is simple. The most simplest answers are the truest. Those where it's uncomplicated. Mistruths, misguided, misunderstanding is all complicated. But when you get down to the very, very truth and the core of things, it's simplest. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about today are going to sound so simple, it might even upset you. I've noticed recently that I'm working with a higher quality of individuals where we're beginning to feel very irritable, angry, upset, frustrated. People that have been doing spiritual work their entire life, only to come back full circle and not understanding what is happening and why they themselves, even though they do the work, are also not feeling well. I wasn't feeling well. That included me. And I had to do the very things that I am going to suggest to you today. It's going to sound so simple. It's going to be very provoking and even upsetting. But again, truth is simple. If you're willing just to go with the simple truth, it'll change your life. So, there's a couple of things that are happening, and I just want to make it as simple as possible. That what happens on the greater scale, on a universal scale, also happens at the microscopic internal scale. What happens on the macro also happens in the micro. We are all part of one system of energy that we could not separate ourselves from even if we wanted to. The majority of us just don't know that we're in it. It's like a fish in water. We could not separate ourselves from it even if we wanted to. It just requires our understanding and our awareness of it. When we're aware of it and understand what it is, we can work with it. What happens is that people have a tendency to want to get out of their experience. They may not like what's going on. And the way that they feel is to get out of it is by focusing upon it. Let's pick it apart. Let's understand. Let's analyze it. Let's assess it. And if it happens again and again, then it's just more proof and more validation, and we hunker down even more. What is necessary, though, is to completely alter your complete view of it entirely. So the example that I'm going to use this evening is that of, say, we're on top of a beautiful building in a city. Okay, and imagine that on one side of this, there's construction happening, and on the other side of it, there's this beautiful scenic view, perhaps an oceanic view or whatever appeals to you. So we've all been in places like that. So imagine that you are in this location that has a horrible view and you choose to see, say, that construction or whatever is happening, that horrible view on that side. But part of you is aware that there is something different, that there's a better view. And so all we have to do is, first of all, have an awareness that there is a different view, a willingness to get there, and then a willingness to stay away from the old view. So, using that same analogy, imagine that we are on that beautiful balcony with that horrible scape of all of that construction and all of that horrible mess on one side. Just requires us to be able to move to the other side and a willingness to be able to see that beautiful scape. When we are finally there, we are no longer remembering and thinking of that other horrible view, unless you are. Most of us do that. Most of us could be here in front of this beautiful scenic view, but someplace completely different in their mind. Now, wherever you are in your mind doesn't matter. Hmm, Let me put that again. Where you are in your mind matters. It's the only thing that matters. That is the most important thing. So you could be in front of this beautiful scenic view and having a horrible scape inside of your mind that you don't even see the beautiful view. Or you could be on this other side with this horrible view, understanding that there is something better, knowing that even though that is what you are experiencing right now, there is a way to get to something else. But we don't get there instantaneously. It requires for us to take those steps to make that walk to the other side, step by step. So if you are in this huge building with this long balcony, you may take you a while to get to the other side, but every step gets you there. But imagine that, say you begin on your journey at one end of the balcony and you have to traverse the entire side of the balcony because that's the only direction. The entire time you're taking each step to feel better, you are going to still be seeing that view. The thing is that hopefully you'll have a vision in your mind and a knowing of where you are headed. That the more you walk that path, the more you are willing to take the steps that are necessary to change your perception to get to that other view, knowing that this will soon be behind you. This will be in your rearview mirror if you let it. Now, as you walk that way, as you take those steps, what you're doing is understanding that there is something newer and better coming, that every step that you take is taking you away from the old. So you have to have a willingness to stop focusing on that thing that you do not want. We cannot get something new by focusing on what we do not want. We will only get more of what we don't want. Wherever we choose to put our attention and our focus creates. So when we've experienced perhaps an entire lifetime of the same old, same old, same old, you may not even begin to understand how it's possible to even make a change. But that's just the point, is that we don't need to know every single step of the way. People fear change, and change is a trigger word, so I'm not talking about change. What I'm talking about is learning how to become more in flow. Life is about flowing, and with that, the scenery changes. You still may be submerged in, say, let's use a different analogy now. Say you're submerged in this stream, this beautiful. I had the privilege of going to the Animas River in Durango, Colorado recently. Beautiful river. And I was watching and observing these people in their canoes as well as in their rafts. And I was watching this entire thing unfold before me. And what I realized is that is the analogy for life. As I was watching those rafters and those canoers go down, I was watching their and observing their reactions and their behaviors. Some of them were so excited and so enthralled in it, and yet there were others that were super fearful. The ones that were fearful in this flow would find an embankment to actually get off the flow because they were too afraid to continue down where these huge rapids were without understanding how to maneuver those rapids. That you don't have to go straight through it, and in fact, you're not intended to. That those who actually study river rafting know how to maneuver the flows, where those pitfalls are, and so where they can actually get to their journey in a safe way. When we choose to pull off and into an embankment, we choose to disconnect from the flow because we want to hold on to what is. But we know that we cannot hold on, and the more we try to hold on, the more the flow tries to take us with it, and the more we think that we try to hold on. When we finally are able to let go, we have one of two things happen. We either will get completely tumbled under by not understanding, or we will have developed enough skill so that we can learn how to go through those turbulent waters so that we can get to the other side safely. Waters represent emotions. So when we have turbulent emotions, it is because there's something inside of us that wants to be released, something that you are trying to let go of. And our holding onto it by looking at it, assessing it, analyzing it, and reliving it again and again only keeps us there. So, what we have to do is be willing to let go of that embankment, allow the canoe to turn as we are able to get into a calm space, knowing that our scenery is going to change as we flow. When we first let go, it's going to be fearful because we don't know the waters yet. But when we gain skill by taking each of those relaxed breaths, knowing when to move the paddles, by knowing how to move our bodies, by putting on our life jackets. All of those things are analogies of doing our part. Here's the thing is that so many people do not feel good, but they don't have the willingness to do the stuff that they need to do to feel better. So the first thing we're going to talk about is changing our thoughts. If you do nothing else in life, do that. It doesn't have to be this huge, massive, overwhelming, lifelong, horrific journey. It just has to begin with one step and one willingness of taking one action, one thing at a time, and taking that repetitive action again and again and again. And what that repetitive action is going to get you to is the skill of learning that flow of those turbulent waters, which is our emotions, which is life. So, what we do is understand that we have all of the support that we need. We just need to learn how to first relax and then go with the flow. So, we have to first pay attention. We have to think about what is it that I'm thinking? We have a part of us inside that runs on autopilot. It's the part of us that daydreams. It's the part of us that isn't even aware. It's the part of us that sets out to get to work or to go to the grocery store. And before you know it, we don't even know how we got there, but we've arrived. It's that part of us that is the subconscious that is there all the time. But when we do not give our mind focus, our minds are usually focused on the things that we don't want, the problems, the argument we had, the problems that we're having, the financial strains, the turbulent relationships, all of these horrible things that are life. But all of those horrible things could be wonderful things of life if we learned to change our perception about them. You cannot change your perception by fighting against it. So the very first step is to first just accept where you are. We may not like it. I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm just saying you have to accept it. It just is what it is. No matter what I tell you, I can't sugarcoat the situation because it is what it is. We accept it. By denying it is not going to help. Pushing it away isn't going to help. By ignoring it, it's not going to help. By trying to put our heads in the sand does not help. We have to face it. Okay, I am here. Okay, the situation is what it is, and I don't like it. Acceptance. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't judge it. It just is. That's the next step. Stop your judgments. We have an internal dialogue about everything. We have an assessment about everything. So, we live in a neutral world. Okay, that is immersed in duality, good, bad, black, white, up, down, right, wrong, you, me. Okay, when it's actually all one, there is none of this separation. So we've got to stop thinking of it in those terms. And we have to come back into just stop judging. A situation is what it is. And then we go into a whole storm inside of our mind. So let's say something happens, and then we remember, well, it happened this time, and this time, and this time. And then we remember all of the times that it happened. And then we begin to go into that one time. And then before you know it, we're no longer in the moment, we're in our mind. And then our mind places judgments, okay? So I was in a restaurant with my sister. It happened to be an Asian restaurant, and they had these really beautiful decor on the wall. It was hibiscus flowers and all kinds of other things, and they were all pretty much the color pink. My sister loves the color pink. So we started talking about here we come into this restaurant with this beautiful atmosphere and ambiance, and then it is us that judge it. It is what it is. It's neither good nor bad. And then somebody who hates the color pink might say, oh my God, I hate this. And then they begin to critique and analyze, and then they just don't like the environment. And before you know it, they're in a storm in their mind because they've placed all kinds of judgments upon the situation. We're judging, we're analyzing, we're comparing, we're reviewing, and then we're gossiping, and then we're getting into this big, horrible mess inside of our mind. We need to learn how to become observers. We need to learn how to detach from that inner dialogue that is always, always there, judging everything. Now, you're going to have to make judgments. It's part of human nature, but it's what you do with it. Are you going to stay in that place of constant judgment, comparing, okay, which creates separation, which creates blame and judgments and all of this horrible stuff that is pretty much about 100% of the horrible experiences that we're having? Or are we willing to just allow things to be as they are without us putting additional meaning and interpretation and judgments upon it? So let's talk about that for a moment. Additional meaning. Something happens, it's neither good or bad, it's neutral, it's just an event. Then we ourselves are the ones that place our judgment on it. Okay? So, for example, if there's a basketball game and there's these two sides, there's an expected outcome of one is going to win, right? And the other one is going to lose. That separation mentality. When you watch children, they're just playing the game. They're not out keeping score. They're just playing because it feels good. It's nice to make a basket. If you watch Pee Wee basketball, they'll be making hoops in the other team. You know, they're just playing. And then you'll see the adults getting all frustrated and angry, right? Judgments. When we are able to be innocent and childlike without judgment, just willing to experience the situation for what it is without placement of additional meaning. Okay? So that example would be, say you're having a conversation with somebody and they just happen to say something simple like, oh, I don't want to go over there. Or, I don't even have a proper example that I can even begin to use, but say you're having a conversation with somebody and they place meaning on it. Okay. So, in other words, if somebody says, well, no, I'm not going to go, nothing more, nothing less, no, I'm not going to go. And then the other person on the other receiving end is in that moment hearing no, and then they have a choice. Just accept it. Okay, they're not going. But what usually happens is that they go into a storm inside of their mind. Wow, why did they say that? Well, how come they said that? It must mean this. Well, if I said this, then that must mean that they're not happy with me. And if they're not happy with me, what did I do? Oh my gosh, did I say that? And then we begin to create these stories in our mind to explain this whole scenario that doesn't mean anything because you're trying to understand it. The person just said, no, I'm not going to go. That's it. Don't place additional meaning. Don't try to interpret why they took the action, why they said what they did. And definitely don't take it personal. Okay? It has absolutely nothing to do with you. Most times when people are in massive arguments, you're just collateral damage for the storm inside of their own head. You just happen to be in their way. They are in a battle within themselves and you're just there in their line of sight. Get out of the way. And don't place additional meaning on it. Get out of the storm inside of your mind and start becoming your best friend. So stop the analyzing. Stop putting additional meaning on it and learn how to become neutral. When you become neutral, you're just allowing things to be as they are. You're not judging, you're not interpreting, you're just letting. Okay? So those are two laws. Those are two spiritual laws that actually must be ab- abide by if you want your life to feel good. The law of acceptance and the law of allowance. I accept things the way that they are. Even though I don't like it, I accept it. When I accept it, then I can begin to make change. And the second thing is the law of allowance. That may not be my choice, but it's their choice. I don't know what their soul's going through, but I don't choose it. So I don't have to judge them and try to control their outcomes. The only thing I can do is control myself. So allow others to be as they are. Stop putting additional meaning on things. Get out of the storm of your own mind. Those two things are going to give you enough space to just detach from all the drama and the trauma that is happening in your life. In that breath, in that space, you're going to have just enough of a moment to relax and detach from the drama and trauma. When you are willing to create space and detach from it by not giving it focus, by not assessing it, by not constantly being in it, by willing to come out of it even just a little, even for just a breath, it'll get easier and easier. Those breaths will become more longer periods of time and it'll become easier to do. So, the way that you do this is first to just acknowledge, oh my God, there I am again. I don't feel good. Second thing is interrupt it. Just do everything that you possibly can to interrupt it. Pay attention to what's happening in the moment. How were you feeling before? Was there something that was being done, said? Were you listening to something? Were you saying something? Were you around someone? Were you doing something when this behavior or this shift in your mood occurred? Pay attention because when those shifts in your mood occur, those are the signal that is telling you something is happening that doesn't feel good. And those are your indicators that something needs to change. Those are your clues of what's happening within your life. And when you are willing to detach from being in the drama and the trauma, then you can begin to see what's happening. When you're able to just give yourself a little bit of a view, you can maybe rise above and say, wow, there's a different view. Wow, I didn't realize there's a whole balcony on the other side that has a whole other better view. How do I get there? This is how you get there. By awareness of your thoughts, you can begin to pay attention that the funny feeling is coming up again. You're getting pissed off, whatever it may be. When you feel it, you heal it. Oftentimes, we try to deny what we feel. We suppress it, we hold it back. So, whatever you got to do, you got to feel it. But if you've been feeling that same feeling over and over and probably have been there the majority of life, you've got to be willing to change it. So, once you are aware of the mood, behavior, attitude, whatever it is that you're feeling, then you begin to observe it detach. Then you have a willingness to, I want to change. And then you begin to say, there is something better. I wonder what it is. Okay? Truth is simple. The simplest thing that you can do is pay attention to what you're thinking because thoughts are things. You may not say that they are, but they are. How many of you have actually thought of a friend or a loved one instantaneously while they're calling you on the other end? Telepathy. So in this room right now, I have a whole ton. Every single one of us has radio waves, Wi-Fi waves, Bluetooth waves, all of these ambient, invisible broadcasting waves that are all around us. We just don't know how to perceive them with our physical body, but they exist. We as humans are all interconnected. We feel each other. And we have a guidance system within ourselves that is our moods and our emotions. When we're willing to tap into that wisdom, that guidance, that inner feeling, it can help us to begin to make a change. So when we understand, oh, I'm having this feeling again, it's just observing it without judging yourself and then creating a space and then thinking, what am I thinking about? What is my tantrum mind focusing on? And then give it its next job. The way we get out of focusing on it is by giving it something else to focus on. Our mind needs something to occupy itself, and either it will occupy itself on its own autopilot, which is horrible because that's the majority of where we don't feel good, or we begin to take control of our own mind and our own thoughts. So let me just say this. If you want to feel good, but you're not, why aren't you? If you have choice in how you feel and want to feel good, but you're not feeling good, your choice is to feel good, but you're not. To choose it is not enough. To want it and to take action upon it is necessary. Okay? So, the way to do that is by a willingness to interrupt that negative thinking. Aware when it's happened, pay attention to what's coming up, feel it so that you can heal it, get it out, talk to someone, write it down, burn it, just do whatever you've got to do to finally let it go once and for all, and then make a decision. I'm tired of that story. Change your story, change your mind, change your thoughts, change what you choose to focus on. So when we are used to living in a particular way, we have habits and things that are autopilot that we're not even aware of. So it's going to take some time and some focus. So be gentle with yourself and have patience. Every time you have a willingness to interrupt a problem thought, you are able to get more and more control, and it'll be easier and easier. So when you find that you're in that negative thought, you have to have a willingness to interrupt it immediately by distraction if necessary. And what that looks like is just stopping your stream of thinking by doing something different or think of something different. And the best way to do that is to bring yourself present in the room. Sometimes when we are off in this place and we're in this worry thought, we have to bring ourselves back into the present. And so the best way to do that is to actually touch your physical body, squeeze yourself if you have to, tap yourself and pound yourself to get yourself to feel your body. And then the next thing that you're going to do is be aware of your surroundings. And by doing that, you will actually bring yourself anchored. A really good technique for that is to actually speak out loud of what you are seeing in your environment, what you are hearing. Bring all of the awareness into your senses. So when you've had this moment that has taken you out of your body because you're in a drama or trauma moment, bring yourself back. And the way that you bring yourself back is first feeling your physical body, touch, tapping, okay? The second thing is to bring your awareness in again through your senses. What do I hear? What do I see? So name three things that you are hearing in your environment. I hear the refrigerator, I hear the microphone, and I hear a fan. Okay, what do I see? I see my computer. I see these feathers behind me, and I see the wall. Do this with every single one of your senses to bring yourself into full awareness of your being. That interrupts the thoughts. And then the moment that you're able to bring yourself into your physical body and being aware of your environment, then you give your brain a new job. You begin to tell it, okay, thank you for finding all this horrible shit that happens in my life. Your new job is to now begin to find the joy in my life. Thank you for the job that you have done and given me for helping me to avoid all of those horrible things that have happened to me. But now I give you a new job. The new job of my mind and my awareness and my brain is to find my joy. In this moment, where is my joy? So you might be in a shitstorm, pardon my language, but you might be in this huge storm within yourself, not feeling good, but you must force yourself to find something. My dad would have a beautiful saying in Spanish, no hay mal que por bien no venga. And what that means is that there is nothing bad that something good doesn't come out of it. It's usually that bad thing that creates space for us to bring in the good. So when bad comes up from inside of you, a bad memory, a thought, an experience, it's coming up so that it can be let go. It's coming up so that it can come out finally. It either comes up and you keep it active and it stays here and you shove it back down, only for it to come back up again, to be activated again, and then you shove it back down. So it's this constant battle. If you don't want to feel that anymore, let it come up. Feel it so that you can heal it. Let it come up and then let it go. Stop focusing on it. That bad experience, that thing that happened. Yes, it's bad. Sometimes there are traumatic events that require additional professional help. If that is your situation, seek it. Do everything that you need to do to be able to seek the guidance to release it so that you are not holding on to it. When those are thoughts and experiences that begin to solidify in our body, that creates experiences and illnesses. So when it comes up, it wants to come out. Let it come out and let it go. Let it go. Be willing to release it. Then you begin to give your mind focus. Find the joy. Find the beauty. And it might not be easy at first. Find something. Find anything. And gratitude is the best way to do that. Now, again, you might be in a really horrific drama and trauma, but every single person has something to be thankful for. Something. You can be in a horrible situation, but at least be thankful for your physical body. So many of us, oftentimes compare ourselves to people's situations that are worse than ours. Sometimes that helps because it could always be worse. But instead of focusing on other people's bad things, why don't you begin to focus on something else? Of like, wow, I had a horrible day, but man, that candy that I had was really good. Or that conversation that I had with this person was good. Or, I'm thankful that I have a house. I'm thankful that whatever the case might be. The best way to shift our energy is to find three things that we are grateful for. So if you're giving your mind a new job, your brain a new job to focus and finding the joy, you're going to begin every day in this way, and you're going to end the night in this way. That will begin to shift everything. So as we go through our days, we're going to feel these ups and downs. You're going to maybe start off really good and have a horrible thing in between, only to remember to come back to it and come back and forth and back and forth. That is going to happen. Sometimes you might have days of not coming back, and that's okay. That's what happened to me. The more we practice, the easier it becomes, the more we apply it. And then it begins to be an autopilot. So rather than our autopilot being negativity, our autopilot can begin to shift into something more positive. So here's the thing, okay? You do this throughout the day, finding joy. Give the brain and your mind the new job of finding joy rather than finding all the shit, finding all that negative stuff, looking at all the negative stuff, focusing on the things you hate, okay? Instead, begin to shift your focus. One great analogy I like to use is that of like those really old 3D glasses. So, gosh, I'm dating myself. Kids nowadays aren't even going to know what I'm talking about. But back in the day, they would film three-dimensional movies, and you'd have to put on 3D glasses, with one side being blue, one side being red, and when you put them both on, it would create this 3D world. Well, half of us are only walking through with one lens on, unable to see the other side. So we have to have a willingness to be able to see it first. And that is what retraining the brain is all about, is making sure that we find those opportunities throughout the day. So this is what this challenge looks like, and this simple activity that you can engage in. You do this one thing and it will change your life. You commit to doing it for a week, oh my God, it will make a difference. If you're willing to do it for over 3 weeks, you will begin to feel something incredible. And if you do it longer, it'll become a craving. And when you do that, it will become a way of life that you will find yourself experiencing something completely and utterly different than that horrible negative thing that you were once before. And it requires our attention and our intention. Okay? The intention is to feel better through our attention of where we put our mind. And so you begin your day this way. Okay? Now, this is interesting. I begin my day at night. Days for me do not begin in the mornings, which is interesting. Good days begin with good nights. If you do not have a good night, you're going to have a horrible morning. If you do not sleep well, you're going to be exhausted the next day. Good days start with good nights. So imagine shifting your perception instead of thinking of the beginning of your day in the morning when you wake up. The beginning of your day begins when you go to bed. Totally different perspective. You're going to be like, what the heck is she talking about? Our day begins when we wake because that's when we start. Again, good mornings can only happen with good nights. If you have an argument with your spouse the night before, you're going to have a horrible night, not sleep, and you're going to carry that into the day. Okay? So shift your perception. Shift yourself into thinking, okay, I am going to do everything that I can to have a good morning. And good mornings start with good nights. So I am going to, in this moment, in this evening, I am going to think of my day and I'm going to think of 3 things that I liked, the 3 things that I appreciated, 3 things that brought me joy, 3 things that I have gratitude for. Okay, choose one of those words. Find good things. Find 3 good things. And if you have a partner, a spouse, a child, a friend, somebody that when you want to share this, or if it's just you, a journal. Write it down. And I challenge you to choose something different every day for at least 7 days. Commit to doing this for a week at least, and then see how you feel. So, what were 3 wonderful things that happened to you during the course of the day? And then you also shift into what are 3 things that I am grateful for? Okay? 3 good things that happened, 3 things that I am thankful for. Make sure that they're different. You may only begin with one. If you can't even think of 3, at least do one. And then make the commitment that the next day you're going to find another one. And the next day you're going to find an additional one. Okay? It might take you some time, again, depending on our circumstances. If you find yourself in such a state that trying to do that is just too much, try to find one. And then maybe the next week you'll find 2. Begin where you're at. Just make a choice. Do it. You'll find something. Okay? And when you do that, it'll shift your energy and your vibe, and it begins to change the brain. Instead of thinking of all the hassles and the problems and the to-do lists and everything that needs to get done, you change your vibration and you begin to change your brain into reorganizing itself, restructuring itself, and beginning to open up the lens of your life. Okay? So again, 3 good things that happened, 3 things that you're thankful for, or at least one. Okay? Now begin your evening early enough, okay, so that you have enough time to be able to do this. Begin to set intention that at whatever time you choose to, that you will begin your evening and you'll begin to do the things that feel good in your evening. If there is a task that you needed to get done that absolutely has to happen, make sure you get it done so it doesn't hang over you. If you have things that need to get done that didn't and you have some problem solving, jot those down and set them aside. Begin to create a rhythm and a system that feels good to you. Going to bed at a decent time, eating if you're hungry, doing the tasks that you need to, and setting aside enough time to quiet your mind. The second thing, this is also part of what's called sleep hygiene, which is basically good practices for sleep, but sleep is so important. There's a whole other thing about it, and I'll talk, maybe I'll dedicate an entire thing to sleep and sleep hygiene and how that works. But if you are at least willing and committed to doing those while you are ready to go to bed, right before sleep, let that be the very last thing that you do. Turn off the TV. Choose to disconnect. Make intention to put attention to those good things. And then tell yourself, okay, I usually end the night with a prayer, but you can even say a mantra or an intention. And this would be that while you work, I'll state my prayer, if you will, is that it would be, Dear God, I ask for and I give permission for your legions of angels to work with me while I sleep. Help to heal my mind, my body, and my spirit while I sleep, so that when I wake in the morning with your Son, I will be made new and afresh. So let this energy settle with you. Ask for divine intervention to work with your energy and the healing of your body while you sleep. If you set that intention just before dozing off into sleep, you give permission for legions of angels to work with you. There are beings that are not able to work with us without our permission and without our request. So we got to ask, and you got to be clear about it rather than just, God help me. God help me. Clear my mind. Heal my mind. Bring calm to my mind. Whatever words come to you, that's what's most important. And then as you doze off into sleep, hopefully a restful sleep, hopefully if there's interruptions, doing everything that you can for appropriate sleep, light blankets, maybe earplugs, having light water, whatever it is required of you, sleeping into good rest because our bodies heal while we sleep. If we deprive ourselves of sleep, we're not able to heal ourselves, and we definitely aren't going to think right, so that when you do wake up in the morning, hopefully you'll be able to wake up naturally. Oftentimes, I mean, I cannot even set an alarm right now. This is the craziest thing. I used to dread waking up. I hated mornings for the longest time. And so I began to shift my perception of it so that I will enjoy mornings. And the craziest thing is that no longer do I set an alarm, and my body naturally wakes up way earlier than I ever did when I was working a full-time job for somebody else. My body naturally craves that morning energy, that sun energy. And when I'm able to allow my body its own natural rhythms, my body feels good. So after saying the good things, the three things that we're thankful for, setting the intention for healing and clarity while we sleep, that when we wake up in the morning, we will feel better. So that in the morning, as you begin to become astir and your mind becomes conscious, pay attention to what happens to your mind in those very critical moments as you wake up. Most often, people will instantaneously go to the very thing that they left off the night before, which is usually worry. And this is why our minds are going to search for knowing where to show up, knowing where to land. Where was I? What was I doing? What was I thinking? What project was I in? What day is it? What time is it? What's going on? So as we become conscious out of our sleep, we seek to find where we're at. Okay? And so if we go to bed feeling negative with all the worry, our brains are going to instantaneously connect to that. So instead, three beautiful things that happened in the day. Then we're also going to, three things we're grateful for. Ask for the healing and while we sleep. And then in those critical moments, you begin to say, gosh, I wonder what three good things are going to happen to me today. I wonder what opportunities are going to happen. I wonder what good things are going to happen. Okay. Now, if you are in a horrible situation, okay, that might be a stretch. Again, you have to assess your own personal situation. Seek whatever it is that you need for your own personal safety, for your own personal wellness, and then do as it takes. As you are in this, even in the most horrific of situations, you can begin to alter your mind. I have known people who have lived in the most horrific of circumstances that are the most elated, beautiful, joyful people because of how they choose to be in their mind. I also have known some of the wealthiest, most privileged people who are also the most miserable because of where they are in their mind. Is about perception. It really is choice. If you choose to feel good, then you must choose actions that help you to feel good. If you choose to feel good, you cannot take actions that are against your feeling good. Everything must be in alignment. So your thoughts must be in alignment with good. Your words must be in alignment with good. Your expression, how you communicate with others, will begin to shift. You'll open up yourself to this new energy that you may not have known existed. And when you begin to do this, your world will become enlivened with color and with vibrancy that you did not even know that existed. There's a whole world of beauty and color and vibration and energy of joy and beauty and love and safety and security. That all does indeed exist. It is available for everybody. It is ambient energy that is available, and you just got to tune into it. We ourselves are finely tuned instruments. If you can imagine the most sophisticated radio that could ever exist, we are both transmitters as well as receivers. And so, whatever you give out, whatever your station is attuned to, is what you are going to receive. You cannot attune your radio station to joy. You cannot hear joy coming through a radio station that is attuned to fear and negativity. We must learn how to change that dial. And that dial change begins with focusing and what we are thinking of. So, interrupting those thoughts. So, again, as you wake up in the morning, you begin in those critical wee hours. I wonder what good things are going to happen today. Okay? And then begin to train your brain to find those things. It's a game. Play, be playful, be innocent, be joyful as a child, and allow yourself to observe. You might see the world an entirely different way. So, those things will shift your energy and your attitude in a way that will begin to ripple tsunamis through your life, because this other vibration cannot exist if you are not giving focus on it. Okay? I'll give another example. There are so many experiences that are happening upon this planet right now. I am not experiencing all of them because I am not giving my attention to it. I know that there are beautiful tribal people upon the planet right now. I can imagine an Aboriginal man, out on in a walkabout in Australia, that where they wear very loose clothing. They may walk barefoot. They may wear paint and have different feelings of and sensations and ways of being in the world. I know that exists. I know that it exists because I've seen it. But it doesn't mean that I myself am living it. I know that it exists because it is there. So if there is an experience that is out there that I want to experience, now it doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden going to be an Aboriginal man, right? But if that is where my attention is, if I have a curiosity, I might actually go and look for it. I might actually seek it and actually try to expand my perception that there is an entire world out there that I am not familiar with. And I can put my senses into it if I choose to, or just bring myself completely back. It means that there's, wow, this entire world that is possible. So you may not even know how to get out of your experience right now. You don't need to know all the steps. That's not the point. The point is that there is something possible. There is something else out there that you might not be aware of that is waiting for you when you choose to take these steps. When you are willing to stop focusing on all of this other stuff and are willing to change your perception and your focus, it can change your entire world. If there is nothing else that you do, may you do this one thing because it's not for me, it's for you. You have an entire life out there that is waiting for you, that is filled with beauty and joy if you choose it. And if you choose it, it requires your actions. And this is one of the simplest ways that you can get there because truth is simple. When we think that all of the things that we have to do to feel better is complicated, mistruths. Just come back to that which is most simple. Just choose to do one thing to help yourself feel better, and that's to pay attention to your mind and your thoughts and do better. It'll change your life. Wow. Now that is way longer than I expected to go. Kind of went in a direction that I didn't expect, and that's okay. I am just so thankful to be here. I hope that the quality of this audio is good, and I'm just so excited to continue to share. So please come back. If you have questions, I want to answer them. If you have topics, please put them in the comments or send me an email because there's so much that I want to talk about. So hit me up. We're here to learn and grow and share together, and let's see where we go. Thank you so much. So 3 things that you are grateful for. 3 things that good that happened. And I wonder what good can come today. Good mornings start with good nights. So may you have a good night. Maybe you'll choose to do this tonight. Who knows?